Good morning. I am here really quick for our day 25 devotion in our Jackie Hill Perry Upon Waking. So let's hop right into it. The scripture for today is Hebrews chapter 3, 6b, and then verses 12 through 13. And we are his house if indeed we hold fast our confidence. Take care, brothers, lest there be in any of you an evil, unbelieving heart, leading you to fall away from the living God. But exhort one another every day, as long as it is called today, that none of you may be hardened by the deceitfulness of sin. The devotion says, when Israel entered the wilderness and saw no water in it, they weren't happy campers. Pun intended. The text says the people quarreled with Moses, saying, "Why did you bring us up out of Egypt to kill us and our children and our livestock with thirst?" Intense, right? I wonder how different the story might have been if they chose to exhort one another on the faithfulness of God. Let's reimagine the story as one that ends in faith, not sin. Let's say after they walk in the wilderness all day, they end up camping out at Rephidim and notice naturally how thirsty they are. Looking around, they don't see any lakes, rivers, wells, nothing, meaning the wilderness doesn't have any natural sources of water, which might be discouraging if they believe their survival is dependent on their environment and not their God. But since that's not the case, they choose to rehearse God's faithfulness. They talk amongst themselves about how it wasn't that long ago that they were thirsty in the wilderness of Shur, about how when they found water and couldn't drink it because it was bitter, God made it sweet. And then let's say these Israelites are already in remembrance mode. They choose to rehearse another story of their history. They recall that time they were fleeing Egypt and got to a body of water they couldn't swim through, only to find that God parted the sea so they could walk on dry land. And while they're at it, let's say they keep going, recalling how, if their memory serves them right, the first plague God did among them in Egypt was turning the rivers, the canals, and every single source of water in Egypt into blood. If Israel had done this, if they had meditated on every story long enough and thought about the truth more than their thirst, they would have had the confidence to believe that if God could curse water and sweeten water and split water, then surely he could create water where there was none. That is so good to me. But that's neither here nor there. If only the Israelites exhorted one another on what is true, they would have had the assurance needed to trust God. But there was no exhortation, no faith, no mention of all the glory God had already revealed, just unbelief. All of this is why the writer of Hebrews said, but exhort one another every day, as long as it is called today, that none of you may be hardened by the deceitfulness of sin. Without exhortation, we are prone to let the different discomforts in our body, mind, and environment influence our faith. But when exhortation is present within the mouth of a friend, the body of a sermon, or the bridge of a worship song, our hearts are reminded that God is faithful. And we are so easily discouraged that we need to be encouraged by the truth every single day. What would happen if you experienced exhortation in the valley and on the mountaintop? On Sunday morning and Tuesday afternoon, you'd remember his past deeds done on your behalf, and you'd have the courage to trust that God can and will always make ways out of no ways. So good, so refreshing this morning. Such a great devotion to remind us that when we go through the valleys, when we go through the ebbs and flows of life, to remember the goodness of God. Go back and think about all the history that you and your God have. Think about all the times that he's made ways for you. Think about all the times that he's healed you, that he's shown up. When your back was against the wall, you thought there wasn't a way, how he just came in and did the unthinkable, did the impossible. And when we think on those things, when we have that exhortation in our hearts and coming from others, it will encourage us in this current season to keep pressing and to keep holding on and to focus more on the goodness of God rather than our current situation. And I believe that if we turn our focus in hard situations towards the goodness of God, instead of focusing on that very real situation, that we will begin to see a difference in how we go through things. We'll be able to see a difference in how we go through the trials and how we go through seasons and periods of suffering if our mind is stayed on the goodness of God and how he did it last time. And then that causes you to be able to wait in faith, right? It causes you to be able to stay that thing in faith, knowing that he is truly the same God. And if he did it before, yeah, he can definitely do it again. He is so faithful. He's so faithful. He knows right where you are. Don't give up. Hang in there. It may have been a long time for some of you, right? And I've had my seasons as well, where we've been in seasons of struggle and in seasons of suffering and in seasons of feeling like they've been overlooked or rejected or abandoned or whatever. Focus on the goodness of God. Focus on the last time he did that thing, whatever that thing is for you. Focus on the last time he did that thing for you. Yeah, turn your focus to that. Turn your focus to that thing and watch and see. Doesn't your day begin to get better? How you go through that thing. Because mind you, you're going through, you're not, God doesn't leave us in the middle. And thanks be to God for that, right? He doesn't bring us this far to only bring us this far. Doesn't mean that it's not hard. Doesn't mean that it feels great and that we're above the real natural feels of things. But it means that we're making a choice to focus on the goodness of God and all that he has done and have hope for the future and all that he will do. I pray that you guys have an amazing day. I pray that the blessing of the Lord that maketh rich and adds no sorrow chases you down and overtakes you. I'll see you here again tomorrow. If you popped in late, you can... my YouTube is in my profile. You can click on that YouTube and find this replay as well as all of the other days that we've been going through this devotional on my YouTube channel. It'll be uploaded sometime tomorrow. I love you guys. Peace.